Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Society of American Archivists International Archival Affairs Section Leadership, of which I am now a former member, I want to welcome you to another installment of our Archival Landscape Seminars. I'm Karen Trivet. I was the IAAS Senior Co-Chair cycling off, and I'm very happy to say that Jennifer Donchev is our incoming Senior Co-Chair, and she is with us today. The Archival Landscape Seminar Series began in 2020. In each seminar, an international guest speaker, or as is the case today, speakers plural, introduces audiences to the issues and the advancements in their local context while describing the history, operating environment, and unique aspects of archival practice in their country. Before we commence the program, I just want to touch on some housekeeping points. Most of you have already complied with muting your microphones, and also close your video transmission to free up the bandwidth. All the while, feel free to put any questions or comments in our chat room, and we will certainly address as many of those as possible at the end of today's program. And without further ado, I am going to introduce our guest speakers today. We have Dora, Alicia, Palomo, Villanueva. I practiced.
Good. Good.
Thank you so much. She is the coordinator of the Archive of the Pontifical Catholic University of Peru. And also we have Laura Yturbe. Is that correct?
No, Yturbe.
Yturbe. Got it. Mori, the records management specialist with the General Archive of the Nation of Peru. And without further delay, I want to just welcome you both again for joining us today. I'm going to pause our program when we have about 15 minutes remaining, and then we'll segue to question and answer. So for now, the floor is yours, dear guests.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we will read the presentation to you in English, and we will appreciate it if you excuse our pronunciation. Yeah, I don't speak English. Okay, we would like to. Okay, voy a compartir. Vamos a compartir. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Society of American Archivists and to Karen Trivet for the kind invitation. As Peruvian archivist, it's a great honor to take part in this space of dialogue and exchange which strengthens the bonds between archival communities across borders. Opportunities like this allow us to share our perspectives, learn from diverse experiences, and contribute to the global conversation on the role of archives in preserving memory and supporting democratic values. About Peru. Peru is located in the central and western part of South America. It borders 5 countries: to the north with Ecuador, to the northeast with Colombia, to the east with Brazil, to the southeast with Bolivia, to the south with Chile, and to the west with the Pacific Ocean. The Republic of Peru is democratic, social, independent, and sovereign. The state is one and divisible. Its government is unitary, representative, decentralized, and is organized according to the principle of the separation of powers. The territory of the Republic is made up to 25 regions. Language: Peru is characterized as a multilingual and pluricultural country. Its official languages are Spanish, and in areas where they predominate Quechua, Aymara, and other native languages according to the law. Estimate a population of more than 34 million inhabitants. To better understand the richness of Peruvian documentation, it's important to highlight the diverse cultural manifestation that constitute the memory of a society that developed in the American continent and which are testimony to adaptation, technological innovation, and cultural expression. Peru's pre-Hispanic history represents one of the most complex civilizational development whose archaeological evidence testified to human presence over 15,000 years. During the vast period, various cultures emerged, standing out for their monumental architecture, their exchange network that spanned from the jungle to the coast, and innovations such as gold, bronze, and copper metallurgy, and advanced loom weaving techniques. Although the Incas did not have writing, they developed a complex recording system consisting of noted cores that recorded accounting and statistical data for income uh, and output from warehouse, tribute from the inhabitants in kind or labor, as well as the amount of land assigned. With the arrival of Francisco Pizarro in 1532, a new period began, the conquest. One of the first testimonies of this period is the Protocolo Ambulante, itinerant notarial records, which contain the handwriting documentation drafted by the scribes who accompanied Francisco Pizarro during the conquest of Peru. The representation of monarchical power brought the establishment of institutions that would be in charge of the administration and government of the Viceroyalty of Peru, which became the producer of a vast amount of documents. The independence process that emerged in the early 19th century brought substantial change to America. After independence was achieved on July 15, 1821, the new republic was established and the new state was organized on the basis of a traditional and bureaucratic model. Between 1930 and 1990, efforts were made to orient national police and state institutions towards the new roles assumed by the state. This materialized in the creation of ministries and institutions, as well as in the restructuring of same of them. At the beginning of the 1990s, a process of reducing the administrative apparatus took place, which involved, according to some estimates, the dismissal of 450,000 workers. In this sense, flexibility in public employment and institutional modernization were promoted. The National Archive. It is well known that the development of archival science in Latin America stemmed from the regulation issued by the Spanish Crown, which established the creation of office to carry out the work of registering and archiving documents. This office were to be overseen by a specialist person. Therefore, the position of archivist was considered in the different institutions of the Viceroyalty of Peru. In view of this, entities designing people to be in charge of managing the documentation they produce. In the Republican period, the incorporation of the Office of Archives and Filing in the ministries required the appointment of officers for the organization and conservation of the documents behind produced. This continued until the National Archive was created. The history of the National Archive of Peru, today the General Archive of the Nation, AGM, reflects the force, adversities, and resilience that have marked the construction of the country's documentary memory. It has undergone an extensive and, at times, troubled development from its creation to the present, adapting to various historical circumstances and the needs of the state. After independence, the colonial archives were abandoned in the convent of San Francisco. Although the founding of a national archive was proposed in 1856, it was in 1861 that its official creation was decreed during the government of Castilla. The institution faced a decade of indifference, lack of resource, and a suitable location. The documents continued to deteriorate until 1865, when they were moved to the National Library. Finally, the National Archive was consolidated in 1972. When it was assigned staff, a budget, and the classification of its holding began. During the War of the Pacific, the archive suffered a significant blow as Chilean troops looted and destroyed part of the documentary collection, resulting in the irreparable loss of important colonial and republic documents. This event highlights the vulnerability of the country's historical memory and the importance of its protection. Just later, the reorganization of the National Archive was ordered, recovering its autonomy. Despite the National Archive being in a deplorable situation at the beginning of the 20th century, it was reorganized again in 1919, and its functions were expanded to include administrative service. Inventory work resumed, and the publication of the journal was promoted, and in 1923, its structure was consolidated. But the physical space remained critical. Even more so after the fire that occurred at the National Library on May 10, 1943, we destroyed nearly 40,000 manuscripts. Moment. An important precedent was the first Inter-American Archives Congress, held in Washington, D.C. in October 1961, under the auspices of the National Archives of the United States, and with the participation of the Pan American Union and the USA Department of State, with financial help from the Rockefeller Foundation. Theodore Schellenberg, archivist of the National Archive of the United States, who the previous year had visited several Latin American countries to learn about the organization and problem of the archives and to contact the archivists of each country, was appointed president of the Congress. The recommendation from this meeting marked the beginning of archival development in Latin America. Dr. Durant's archival work began when he took charge of the direction of the National Archives between 1964 and 1983. Thanks to his effort, the organic law of the education sector was issued in 1971, indicating that the General Archive of the Nation, AGN, was part of the National Institute of Culture. The following year, its name was changed to General Archive of the Nation, and it was established as an executive body of said institute. Furthermore, the Archival Technical Council was established. To guarantee the role of the AGM, the law for defense, conservation, and increase of the documentary heritage of the nation was issued. The same year, Dr. Durán participated in a meeting in Washington, D.C., where the plan for modernization and restructuring of Peruvian archives at the national level was discussed, suggesting the need to decentralize archival science and create departmental archive. This task was carried out with great enthusiasm between 1975 and 1990, creating 17 departmental archives, thus providing supervision and technical advice and organizing various events to bring together archives from the region, with the aim of invigorating archival action in the archives of their jurisdiction and guaranteeing the preservation of historical memory at the national level. In 1972, the National Archive officially changed its name and became an executive body of the National Institute of Culture. After 12 years of military government, in 1981, state institutions were restructured and the General Archive of the Nation became a decentralized public agency of the justice sector, in charge of planning, directing, and regulating archive management of the national level. This includes the creation and supervision of the departmental archives, create up to that point, as well as control over the archives of the public administration. One of the challenges of the General Archive of the Nation had to face as the governing body of the National Archive system was to integrate the archive of the public sector through advising and supervising their organization and operation, as well as advising, as well as providing ongoing technical training for those working in them. Between 1982 and 1989, the General Directorate of Intermediate Archive carried out several activities to strengthen the system, among which the following stand out: the archive census, development of the implementation plan for the National Archival System, technical meetings, supervision and advice, training courses, among others. Peruvian archival science advanced notably. Despite lacking system law, the Archive of the Public Administration were regulated and mechanisms for technical coordination between them and the AGN were created. Within the framework, technical standards were developed to consolidate and standardize the organization of archival work at the national level. These standards and directives were approved between 1985 and 1986 The dissemination was carried out through the second technical meeting on archives, aiming to strengthen coordination between the AGM and the bodies responsible for the rationalization and control administrative system to institutionalize the creation of archival and ensure compliance with archival standards. On the other hand, it was proposed the restructured central archives into archive administration bodies and integrate them into the system. Develop the document control program to ensure the conservation of permanently valuable documents and eliminate those unnecessary for administration, and adapt archives facilities according to technical guidelines. Likewise, the development of the National Integrated Plan for the Development of Administrative Archives and the formulation of relevant directives for the standard of archival or archive administration, document selection, and document conservation were proposed. Parallel to all this archival work, with its ups and downs, recognition of the archivist's career by the National Institute of Public Administration was also thought, which will allow for a fair occupational level and better remuneration. Also, to strengthen the work of archivists and at the suggestion of the Peruvian Association of Archivists, May 10, was established as Peruvian Archivist Day in 1986, with the goal of recognizing the work of those in charge of organization, conserving and safeguarding state documents, warranting access to public information, and the preservation of national memory. In November of the same year, a directive on the development of the document control program, transfer, disposal, and conservation of documents were approved. Valuable instruments that were disseminated at the third technical meeting on administrative archives. In the field of the public career, the inclusion in the public administration position classifier published in 1988 was the position of archive technician and archive specialist, was archived a just recognition of archival work was as a specialized activity within the state administration, thus integrating it into public service. In 1991, all public entities, including the central government, regional governments, decentralized public institutions, development corporation, and special projects were declared in a state of reorganization. In this context, the General Archive of the Nation was reorganized in 1993, changing the name of the DG, Directorate General to the National Directorate of Archival Development and Intermediate Archive. This directorate continued to work study to strengthen the national archival system through signing cooperation agreement with institutions for the advice and technical supervision of central archives, organizing and developing conference and archival events of the national level, advising the Municipal Archives Commission enforcing archival legislation, continuing with the professional training and development of personnel working in archives, modernizing technical process and archival service, updating and computerizing description tools, authorizing document disposal, among other activities. The friendship between Dr. Guillermo Duran, Celso Rodriguez, Aurelio Tanodi, and Vicenta Cortez allowed him to organize courses sponsored by the Organization of American States through its regional program for culture development. Dr. Vicenta Cortez contributed to structuring the foundation and assistance mechanics for the archives, receiving support at the technical meeting on archive development held in Washington, D.C. in 1972, where the Charter of American Archivists was approved. International archival training began with fellows from several Ibero-American countries who attended the Center for Library and Documentary Studies of the General Subdirectorate of Archives of the Ministry of Culture of Spain, and the Inter-American Center for Archival Development at the School of Archivists of the Faculty of Philosophy and Humanities of the University of Córdoba, Argentina. For over 20 years, the OAS allowed for the specialization of a large number of archivists who later became official in various public and private institutions. Some became part of the teaching staff of the Training Center for Archivists and the Regional Archives course, which had been taught in Lima, Peru, since 1989, always with the decisive support of the OAS. The Training Center of Archivists, CCA, was created as a line organ of the Directorate of Intermediate Archive of the General Archive of the Nation, with one of its functions being to plan and execute training action for personnel working in the archives that make up the national archival system. The CCA began its academic activities in 1982 with the first training course for archivists. The CCA's training program was expanded 2 years later with a basis course, 1 month, for provincial archivists and 2 annual intermediate level courses. In this way, the training process was strengthened at the local, regional, and national levels. The creation of a school for the professionalization of archivists was a project the CCA had been working on since its beginnings, and it was one of Dr. Duran's priority. Thus, in 1986, the Ministry of Education approved the profile and plan for the professional archival career. In 1992, the creation of the National School of Archivists was approved as a deconcentrated organ of the General Archive of the Nation, intended for the academic formation and training of personnel working in the archive of public and private entities. It began the first academic year in 1995, taking on the responsibility of higher technical training in archives. Many graduating classes followed, and the school became strongly positioned in subsequent years. There was a time when it stopped functioning for administrative reasons, but it was resolved thanks for the authorities in charge. In 2018, its name was changed to the National School of Archival Science, and its operations are now registered under the law on higher education institutes and school and the public career of their teachers. The school continues its formative work, preparing new professionals to face challenge in managing large volumes of electronic documents, long-term digital preservation, interoperability between systems, and adaptation to a constantly changing legal and regulatory environment. Thank you, Laura.
Okay. Um, yeah. First of all, I would like to thank again the Society of American Archivists for the invitation. I will briefly talk about archival education at the university. In this case, the Catholic University Sede Sapiens offers the only bachelor degree in archival science and records management in Peru. It is a 5-year program that combines foundation, methodology, and professional practice. The curriculum includes archival subjects, some courses in management and technology, as well as complementary areas like research, communication, and law. Students also have the opportunity to do internship and workshop in real settings. As my colleague already mentioned, the National School of Archival Studies also play an important role with its technical program. However, both opportunities are located only in Lima. This centralization creates many difficulties since students from other regions have limited access to the specialized training. As a result, many archives outside the capital still lack of professional staff. That is why there are ongoing discussions about introducing online or blended programs so that many more people across the country can study archival science and records management and also help to contribute to improving the state of archives. Also, for me, it's necessary to tell that in Peru does not offer yet a master program focused on archival science. Because of this, professionals who want to continue their education must look for opportunities abroad. There are also diploma programs offered by universities and professional associations. However, these diplomas are usually very specific in some topics, or not enough to replace a full degree. Many students who look diploma across the courses abroad, which show the lacks of specialized training as options at home. Also, for me, it's necessary to say that even though this university is the only university that teaches archival science in Peru, there is still little recognition of the profession. When institutions open job positions, they often do not include archival science or records management as a specific requirement. Instead, they list other related disciplines while ignoring the fact that archivists trained. This makes it difficult for graduates to compete in the market. Pues, ¿puede la diapositiva, por favor? Thanks. Well, about the international association, I have to say that there are many, but I would like to focus on two main ones. The first one is the most well-known, I think, is the ICA, the International Council on Archives. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with it. The ICA is a global organization created in 1948 to promote the preservation, management, and accessibility of archives. It brings together institutions and professionals from more than 180 countries. It's organized into different sections, such as section for archival education, professional association, local archives, and others. It also has expert groups that work on specific topics. For example, archival description, access to information, shared heritage, or emergency management. Another important thing that we need to recall or to remember is that they have like three different programs, in this case, new professional programs, which support young archivists at the beginning of the career. It offers mentoring, international collaboration, and participation in the ICA project. Each year, only a few participants are selected worldwide. Recently, two Peruvians, including myself, were chosen for this program, which means representing our country in the global archival community. ¿Puedes cambiar la diapositiva, por favor? The other professional association that we like to talk about is ALA, the Latin American Archives Association. As my colleague already mentioned, it was founded in Lima in 1973, and since then has become an important regional organization recognized as one of the branches of the ICA. LAA brings together archival institutions and professionals from across Iberoamerica with the mission of promoting cooperation, improving archival practices, and safeguarding documentary heritage. To achieve this goal, it worked through a civilian working group, and we can see there are 9, which are spaces for discussion and joint initiative on topics such as community archives, human rights, electronic records, access to information, and cultural outreach. In addition, LAL supports archival education through a group of experts in a university training, which Peru is also represented. This participation reflects the contribution of our country to the international archival community. ¿Puedes cambiar la diapositiva, por favor? Okay. Now, we would like to talk about the National Association in Peru. In Peru, there have been civilian professional associations of archivists. For example, we have APROARC, ASPAR, ANADAR, and others. This group were created to promote training, defend interests of the profession, and support the protection of documentary heritage. However, one of the main difficulties in their activities is that they have not always been continuous. Many of them they have been active, but for a while they become inactive because of limited resources or changes, for example, in leadership. In some cases, I need to say political or personal interest has also influenced their job or their work, making it difficult to guarantee the continuity. Even with these challenges, the existence of these associations show the effort of Peruvian archivists to organize and to give more visibility to the importance of archivists in our society. At the same time, it's important to note that there are still very few professionals with bachelor degree in archival science and records management in Peru. For that reason, perhaps in the future, with greater numbers of graduates, it could be possible to create a new, stronger national association, but not only to promote professionalization, but also to help to consolidate the identity of archivists and give more recognition to the discipline in the country. Can you? Now, I would like to talk about the regulatory framework that works or that support archives and digital government in Peru. As you can see in this timeline, everything started with the first norm in the 90s. One of the most important is the law 2523, which created the National Archive System. Along with it, we have also the law 19414, which gave rules on how long documents with permanent value should be retained. These two laws are essential for organizing archives in the country. However, they are also considered pre-constitutional, which means that they were created under different political contexts, and today there is a clear need to update them to fit our currently reality. Later, new laws and directives were incorporated, including digital signature law, transparency law, and the law of the protection of personal data. Another important gain that was made is the record management model that is under the presidency of Council of Ministers. This model has its own regulation recently updated in this month, and it shows how record management is directly connected to government process before, but before this update that was made in this month, the regulation said that the National Archive had to participate in this process. Now the participation is not always mandatory, so which opens some questions that we need to figure it out later. Mm, can you say? Okay. At the same time, Peru also follows international standards that influence archival work, including ISO or ISO norms for digital preservation, risk management, record management system, and information security. This reference also allows the country to align its archival practice with global standards. It is also important to highlight in 2023, in that year, there was an attempt to update the directive from 2018-2019 to include a digital component. This shows that digital processes are already becoming part of the record management. Even though the most of these updates were observed by the authorities, they should have not been seen as a failure, but as a part of a judgment process and a way to improve step by step. We should reflect on the of, of the professionalization of the archivists. Peru has already laws and technical rules for archives, but there's still no law to support that professionalization for archivists as a recognized career. This is a pending challenge for the future, and it shows the need for initiatives to promote training, recognition, and better education for archival work in the country. Okay. The Law 25323 represented a turning point in the history of Peruvian archives or archives. For the first time, Peruvian had a legal framework that formally recognized the importance of organizing, protecting, and managing its documentary heritage. With this step, the National Archives was positioned as the head of the archival system, with the authority to guide and regulate the action of other institutions. This recognition gives archives a visibility that they don't have previously achieved. At the same time, it is important to point out that the law by itself does not guarantee the complete development of archives in Peru. Having a legal instrument is essential, but it's only the starting point. The law establishes responsibilities, promote the creation of policies, set standards, but the actual implementation depends on the commitment of the government institution, the resources assigned in the awareness of the value of the archives. In other words, I need to say that the law provides the framework, but the real results came from the action later, taken later. This means that the law 25323 was a fundamental or is a fundamental step, but not a final answer. It opened the way for supervision, evaluation, regulation, but it did not solve the structural challenges such as lacking of funding, the share of specialized professionals, or the technological gaps that affect the preservation and access to the document. This aspect require additional measure programs and continuous adaptation to the new realities. Therefore, we need, if we want to study this law or understand it, I think we need to see it in two dimensions. In one hand, that is the milestone they gave order and authority to the archival system in Peru. On the other hand, it shows us the limitation of the legislation because without sustained application, without complementary efforts, the existence of the law alone cannot transfer archival practice.
Laura, we have only a few more minutes.
Oh, okay, don't worry. Okay, that's all. Okay. Another thing that is important to mention that Legislative Decree 1566. This decree did not modify the international or the national archives laws of the 90s. Instead, it only adds one article. The original law remains in force, and this addition should be understood as a simple or as a small update because this article seeks to introduce digital aspect into archival framework, establish the regional archives in institution, archive situation, archive system should be progressively adopt digital technology. This represents an initial step towards modernization, but we have to remember that this law was originally designed for a paper-based context. However, the decree is also limited because it not address broader challenges such as digital preservation, interoperability, or information security. For this reason, it can be seen only as an attempt rather than a complete reform. A more comprehensive update of the law will eventually be necessary to ensure that the archival system is fully aligned with the current needs of future demands. One important directive is the standard of administration of archives in public institutions. We display the institutional archive system, el sistema institucional de archivos, and main component. With this system, the organization archive unit must act as a central archive, leading and coordinating all the archival activity at the same time. The directive defines essential process, archival instrument, archival procedure, giving a clear structure of how archives should be organized and managed, both physically and the digital environment. This directive plays a fundamental role because it not only establishes the existence of archives, but also specifies how they should operate on a daily basis. It sets rules for the classification, of the document for the timely transfer to between different archival phases and the preservation information with legal, administrative, and historical value. It's also emphasized the responsibility of each public institution to implement this guideline, ensuring that uniformity and avoiding improvisation in the management of the documentary heritage. Can you? Okay. It is important that with the Digital Government Regulation, Article 51 establishes a specific responsibility regarding the transfer of electronic archives. This article makes clear that each public entity organizes its own institutional archival system, ensuring that digital records generated in their daily operation are properly arranged and prepared for the transfer. In this way, the regulation introduces a chain of responsibilities. Institutions act as a first custodian of the records as they create, but they are not the one in charge of their permanent preservation. The Article 51 also defines the role of the National Archives, which become the final recipients of these electronic archives. Once the institution has completed organization, classification, preparation of the documents, they transfer must be so that the National Archives can ensure long-term custody, authenticity, and preservation. This provision reflects the idea that preservation is a shared process. It begins in the institutional level, but culminates in the National Archives, with where the technical and legal guarantees are concentrated. At the same time, it is important to highlight that this change is still in process and being implemented. Many institutions are adapting the procedures, technological, and internal regulations to comply what the Article 51 established. The application of this rule requires coordination, training, and in some cases, even modification of existing systems. For this reason, the scope, the competencies of national archives and the responsibility of each institution are still being clarified and adjusted step by step as the regulation begins to apply in practice.
And we have about 2 more minutes.
Can you change the last slide? Yeah. Okay, to conclude, we'd like to share a message written by Cesar Gutierrez in honor of Guillermo Duran, a figure whose legacy continues to inspire the archival community. The mere mention of the name of Guillermo Duran Flores always brings to mind the National Archive System, the documentary heritage of the nation, the departmental archives, the pioneering training center for archivists, the intermediate archives, national international meetings, the professional development of staff, specialized legislation, the foundation in 1973 of the Latin American Association of Archives, and his active honorary presidencies, his classes, lectures, and archival writings, the UNESCO and OAS project carried out in Peru, the Archiepiscopal Archives of Lima, and so many other works. That's all. Thanks.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I know I've already got a couple of questions, but I want to remind everyone they can put questions in the chat or raise your hand or just speak up. It's not a highly scripted room. So I will open up the floor for questions. And if we could stop sharing the screen so we could see everyone's lovely faces. Any questions? All right, I will go first. Laura and Dora, what would you say would be the greatest challenges you face on the day to day with managing the records of Peru? I mean, would it be a matter of education? You mentioned that there's not a master's program, or would it be electronic records and the difficulties that they present to our situation? How would you answer that question?
Well, in my case, I think, well, the difficulties could be like, well, they don't have enough training centers. We only have one university, one program that may take decision, but we need more for our reality. So archives around the world, around Peru, they don't have specialist professional staff. Is one of that. The second one is the law, the directives, everything they need to be updated.
Mm,
Like I said, there was an attempt in 23 to update the directive from 2018, 2019, but this was they were observed, but we can see like like an attempt, like try to adjust to the reality. Not everything is very fast. Unfortunately, that because everything well, I want that this direct, but no, there is a process. So
yes.
that's what I can say.
Dora, do you have an opinion as well?
Sí, bueno, bueno, la archivística en Perú ha presentado muchos retos, sobre todo la parte de la profesionalización, em, y que se ha ido desarrollando poco a poco, ¿no? A través justamente de las dos instituciones que tenemos sobre formación archivística. Está la Universidad Católica Sede Sapiense y la Escuela Nacional de Archivística, ¿no? Que ayuda y contribuye, ¿no? A que los archiveros se actualicen y puedan enfrentar sobre todo los retos de la transformación digital, ¿no? En ese sentido, también, obviamente, la apertura que hay en cuanto a la profesionalización o la capacitación o la formación internacional a través de otras instituciones académicas que contribuyen a la especialización del archivero.
Do we have a paraphrasing for those of us who do not speak Spanish? Laura, Monica?
Sí,
Yeah, right now, Monica Benavides is telling us no what my professor Dora also said that archivists in Peru have been faced and actually principally in the training in archivists. My professor always is she's a teacher from the university, so we know how difficult can be that. So that's what she was telling us.
Thank you so much. And I saw a question earlier in the chat. Let me get back up there. And thanks again to Monica for her help in the chat. So Shelley wants to know, sorry, that's already been answered in the chat. Do Peruvian archivists train in other Latin American countries?
Yes, for example, like I said, in master, we don't have a master degree here. We can study some discipline that are related to the topic, but it's not our field, right? So we have, for example, apply to Colombia with something with record management or apply to another country to have like that kind of opportunity.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you mentioned quite a bit of reliance on the ISO standards. I was also curious, Laura, I know you're very active with ICA.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, you must look to ICA for standards in terms of generating theory and practice in your own practice in Peru. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was part of the new professional program, so that's how I entered to the world of the ICA. I
Mm-hmm.
was part of the cohort 2021 to 2022. What I do it right now is, like you said, I have to find standards. For example, ICA put records in context, so I have to study that to apply to my job, to apply, like doing some research to try to update the directives. That's what I'm looking forward to ICA. Also, like you said, for example, in the Congress in Barcelona, they are going to share more information. So that's great.
It is very great. I just saw on the RIC listserv that they're soon to come out with application guidelines. So, cheers to that for anyone in the room a bit as mystified as I am. Um, so, any other questions from the audience? I do have Zamara Romero would like to ask a question. Go for it. You just need to unmute.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to wait. I will switch on the camera this moment. Good
There you
morning, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm really so happy to stay with you all today. I'm really here to support also my colleague Laura Yturbe from Peru and my teacher Dora Palomo. I really congratulate both of you for this today, that speech of today. No? So actually the problem here in Peru is that we faced, first of all, educational system. We have only two institutions, as Laura said. It's something which is really so, how to say, as a student, I feel that I don't have many chances or the opportunity to grow or specialize in my field. Actually, I'm a student of the last semester of my career, which is Archivística y Gestión Documental, as we call here, which is archival science and records management. So we have only two institutions in which one is specialized in a technical field, which is only productions or managing archives, and the other, which is related to specialization of records management. And here in Peru, we have the leg that we have, for example, we divide these two fields in the age of the document. For example, as archive, we call only managing all documentation, and records management is actually what we are managing the documents right now. So our university make us a specialist in that field. Our university make us a specialist of the documents that are being handled and used right now. And we have laws and we have different kind of guidelines and how to manage this kind of archives that simply are not exactly what we call as an old archives. Is totally different, totally opposite. So right now in our country, we have been managed is this national system. The national system is articulation of institutions, which are being managed by our, how to say, the National Archive of Peru. The National Archive of Peru, which is Archivo General de la Nación, as everybody knows, they don't have specifically rules or guidelines how to set up the main profile of the archivist who will be handling and managing this information. So that I would like to add to the speech of Laura, in which she concerned about the laws. Specifically, the laws mention how to produce, how to manage the archives, how to handle these kind of procedures, but at the end, we don't have the main motive of how to handle this situation, which is the lack of having proper professionals with which handling this situation, this records management. They are really not having the skills that it needs to handle this kind of involvement, which is related to managing the documents. Right. Actually, in Peru, we are so less professionals in this field. So we need to go abroad to study. We need to, for example, right now I'm applying for a scholarship in South Korea so that I can study and learn a little bit more about my field. But it's totally difficult for another students to have the language barrier to prepare themselves. So this is something which is like not good also for my main colleagues from Archivística in my university, because they cannot access to more information related to it. They just are guiding themselves according to the guidelines of Peru, but they don't know what is exactly what they can learn abroad, which is totally different and difficult for every one of them. So this is all I wanted to say. And thank you for making this, organizing this, even today, so most of us will learn what is the situation, not only, and you will know what is the situation in Peru, and also I will get from you all how is being handled there in your country. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful, wonderful commentary. We are close to finishing up, but I do have a couple of announcements to make. Um, so today's recorded installment will join past seminars, all of which can be viewed via SAA's YouTube channel and its IAAS Archival Landscapes playlist. So you will be in very good company, Laura and Dora, with a lot of other wonderful points of view from archives and records management. The other IAAS program is Archival Vistas Briefings, where Landscapes focuses on differences in archival practices and traditions by location. Vistas takes a thematic approach. Next year's theme, we've concluded this year's cycle with Vistas, which is 3 programs a year, whereas Landscapes is 4. But next year's theme will be artificial intelligence and archives practices and operations. And let me tell you, roll up your sleeves, fasten your safety belts, because our first program is going to be outstanding. I'm just going to leave you with that teaser. So with that tease, I want to thank our guests, Laura and Dora, again, and all of their colleagues that joined us today. Monica, thank you so much. And our fearless leader, Jennifer Donchev, going forward, thank you as well. And with that, I'll leave you to revisit the recording when it is on the air via YouTube. Thank you all so very much. I'm going to stop recording and you're all free to leave if you would like. Let me stop the recording.
Oh. Okay.